I'd like to call to order this meeting of Susquehanna Township Board of Commissioners.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. I'd like to note that we did meet in executive session, both tonight and in the event I did not mention it, September 8th, our last meeting, to discuss matters of personnel and real estate. I would note that all commissioners are here with the exception of Commissioner Engel, who is excused. I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence, with the pledge being led by Commissioner Galo.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody to our workshop meeting. I'd like to begin with petitions, complaints, suggestions from citizens. Does anybody wish to address the board tonight? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward, state your name, address, and please attempt to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I will do. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Pam Morley. I live at 4635 Hamlin Lane. I'm here about the development at Margaret's Grove. A couple issues. Questions, I guess, one I had is, if something isn't built according to the plans and specs, who is required to fix those? We have been getting comments back to our HOA saying certain things need fixed, and to me, my background is construction, so plans and specs I don't think are being followed. Curb radiuses, drainage, paving, soiling and seeding, all of those issues. I was wondering how we can get those fixed. Another question is sediment. And I've only lived there for a little over 2 years. And since I've been there, sediment runoff has been consistent. And I mean, it's in the houses, on the houses, setting in the streets. All of this hasn't been addressed. We've tried to address the builder. It comes back, nothing. So going forward, and this is just a suggestion, because I think we can do those here. When you start looking at developments, and this is my suggestion, it's considering green spaces. I know you get funds for having dwellings instead of green space, but when you compact so much in a small area, green space is ideal. I mean, it's for kids, it's for, I'm going to say this, snow removal. Like right now, where do you house snow when you remove it? I mean, all these things, you know, you have to consider parking, inspections, mowing. Like, how are you going to mow grades greater than a 4-to-1? I mean, you got to get specialized mowers to get up and down grades greater than 4-to-1. Basin cost. I know there's proposed rain gardens in our development. Rain gardens are beautiful. They take 3 to 4 years to establish, and is that even covered? You know, like, that's going to cost the HOA a lot of money to keep establishing rain gardens. So hopefully that was short and sweet.
Yeah. Well, you want to get those questions answered up front.
Yes.
So happy that you came tonight. I would suggest that you talk to Mr. Propolka or staff in terms of, you know, what were the plans, or the plans being adhered to? Was there an inspection? You know, describe the nature of that inspection. You know, that kind of information that they could research and get ready for you to make sure that you have all the information you need. And as well as our recreation and payment in lieu of recreation fees. So we do have a component that addresses the green space. We call it recreation, and those funds go into create recreational opportunities throughout the township. if a developer chooses, the developer is supposed to give us land for every unit that they build, but there's an option to make a payment in lieu of recreation. So that's all worked out in the planning process before the planning commission gets to the engineer, gets to our staff, comes to the board. It's a process. So it would be presumptuous of me to pick any part in that process, and engage in a discussion tonight.
Yeah, I just, the big thing is who's responsible to fix it?
Is it the HOA or is it the township? Is that the answer
Well,
you're looking for?
Yes, and the problem, I don't feel it's the HOAs, because the HOA has no process in approving the plans and had no process in the construction. They had no say in construction. So to me, it does not fall with the HOA. And I'm very firm on my stance for two reasons. One, I'm part of the HOA. Two, it affects my bottom line. And if it's not inspected and not built right, then that doesn't fall on me because it wasn't done right.
Right. Yeah, I think if you reach out to Mr. Propolka's staff, or Mr. Propolka, I think, has his card over there for you.
Nope. Okay.
You get a much more in-depth addressing of your questions.
Okay, how about sediment? Like, is there something that we can get the developer to do now? Because this has been an ongoing problem.
Same deal.
Just reach out.
Yeah, reach out to them. And we have standards for sedimentation.
Yes.
Erosion
I mean, I
control.
have the general plans, and even I just found a contradiction in the plans, like for topsoil, one page said 4 inches, the other page said 6 inches. So, I mean, there is a contradiction in the plan.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then wherever you speak. Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? Okay, hearing none. Move on. Approval of minutes from our September 8th board commission meeting. I did offer one minor typo change to Kathy. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I offered a couple myself, and they were corrected. I'd like to move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Issarow, seconded by Commissioner Hyde. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Rotary Club. Is there a president of the Rotary Club in the house? Yes. She is. Public Safety Director Martin and Superintendent Tamara Willis. Mr. Fuller, please come forward.
Someone convinced me to be Rotary Club president.
Want to do that?
Yeah, right.
So good evening, can you please come on up? We are here representing the Rotary Club of Susquehanna Township. And each year it is one of our favorite awards to give, and that is for Officer of the Year. So I believe that Chief Martin has some words he wants to share about this year's Officer of the Year.
Detective Scott, come on. Well, first, thank you to the Rotary Club of Susquehanna Township with absolute gratitude that years ago Mr. Fuller and members of that club, that association, decided that it was very important that they create this award for our officers, so we're very just thankful for that. We're thankful for their appearance here tonight. This young man, before I get into my prepared words, I just want to say some things. I've known this young man a long time, long before he was on the police department. And I can tell you, he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever had an opportunity to say that I've known and I've been friends with. His father was a police officer, retired police officer, and Kevin followed in his father's footsteps for a life of honorable service. Detective Scott is in his 20th year of service with our department. Over the course of his career, Kevin has distinguished himself as a caring, compassionate, diligent, and honorable law enforcement officer. Kevin is presently in our criminal investigation division. Not only does he handle criminal cases, but he provides oversight of our evidence and property room. In that role, he is quite literally a subject matter expert. He serves on the Dauphin County Forensics team, and therefore Kevin is activated for all major crime scenes in the county under the auspices of the District Attorney's Office. His work across Dauphin County has brought great credit not only to himself as a professional, but also to our department. Moreover, and I want to emphasize this, his work is not easy. His work is filled with loss, trauma, and sadness. This is the officer that has to attend all of the autopsies, take pictures of them, record them for investigations. This is not easy work. You know, when you think of a career of a law enforcement officer in America, you know, one of the things you have to remember is this. You can't step into a river of horror and not get wet. And that's what these officers endure, and that's specifically what this officer endures on a daily basis for the citizens of this township. I'm proud to serve with Detective Kevin Scott. I was proud to nominate him for this award, and I'm proud to have him as a friend. So with that, I'll leave it to the Rotary Club to present the award.
Very good. On behalf of the Rotary Club of Susquehanna Township, we would like to present this award of Officer of the Year to you, Detective Kevin Scott. Thank you.
He's a pretty humble guy, but I think
A couple exactly, thank you.
And I know our time is up, but I would like to just switch hats for a moment. And as superintendent of the Susquehanna Township School District, I would personally like to thank the entire force for the support that we've received as a district. You are truly a partner to us. Chief Martin has my cell phone number. I have his number, and I'm sure he regrets it sometimes. But we work hand in hand as things happen across this nation. I am often met with a text message from Chief Martin saying, "We got you covered tomorrow. We'll be on site tomorrow." And I can't thank him enough for that. So I want to thank you, and I believe your officers are a reflection of your leadership. So thank you.
thank you.
Detective Scott, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
We really appreciate all the work you do, and everything the chief said about you rings true for almost every one of your colleagues in the department. Can we get a picture with, and I'd also like to thank the Rotary Club for doing this, because it really shines a spotlight on our best and brightest, and that's important. That's really is important for a community. It's important for the esteem of our officers. So, can we come up and get a picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it work?
Yes.
That'd be awesome.
That we can do. Come on, Kevin.
All right, coming up next is the presentation of the 2021 Susquehanna Township audit. In Mira, that's all right. Does anyone? Oh, is he online? Okay.
We have Tim Mira with Zelenkowski Axelrod on the Zoom. Tim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible to put him on the screen?
Yes, I can. I'm gonna get, let me just join actually, I just learned this little trick. If it works, you'll all be impressed. If it doesn't, you may slip up. Be impressed. Screen view, and we're off. Or you may want to actually.
Yeah, can we switch that?
Yes.
Can we full screen him instead?
Sorry.
Hey.
Hey!
There he is. That's impressive work. Take a bow, sir.
I can sing too.
Maybe later.
Not well. Tim, you're on.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me this evening. Just kind of want to high level go over the 2021 audit of the township. At this point, you'll be issued the report on Tuesday, so you guys should have all received a copy of that as well as the governance letter, which is issued every year. I know Kim spoke with the Budget and Finance Committee last week. They went into more details of the audit, but I'm going to touch on some high-level points of the audit this evening for you guys. This year's audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. If you turn to page 1 of the audited financial statements, you will see that we express an unmodified opinion on the township's financial statements. There was no management letter comment or letter issued this year. There only would have been if we identified any deficiencies in the township's control environment, which we did not. So there was no management letter comment communicated to you guys this year. The governance letter that also would have been handed out along with the issued financial statements just gives some high-level points of our 2021 engagement. Some of the points that it talks about are that we incurred no difficulties during the annual audit of the township. We encountered no disagreements with management. Management representations had been obtained. No management consultations with other accountants occurred to our knowledge, and there were no other audit issues that were identified during our 2021 audit of the township. If you turn to page 12 of the audit report, which is the statement of net position, you will see that the township ended the year 2021 with a positive net position of $2.9 million. This is an increase of roughly $3 million from the prior year, where the township had a $114,000 deficit net position. The $2.9 million net position ending at 2021 is comprised of a balance of $17.2 million in your net investment in capital assets, restricted net position of $3.3 million, and unrestricted net position of, it's a deficit of $17.6 million. Total assets of the governmental activities of the township and deferred outflows totaled $81 million, and this is up from $69.4 million in 2020. Part of the increase that you're seeing from 2020 to 2021 is due to the ARPA funds, the unspent ARPA funds sitting at year end, as well as unspent bond proceeds, and an increase in the due from authority resulting from the township's issuance of the 2021 general obligation bonds. Total liabilities and deferred inflows increased from $69.5 million in 2020 to $78.1 million in 2021. Again, this increase is a result to the 2021 general obligation bond issuance and the increase in the due to authority, as well as the township's OPEB liability increased during 2021 as well. Relating to your governmental funds, this is your general fund, your major funds. You saw your ending fund balance total of $44.5 million, which is an increase of $6.3 million from the prior year. And this is also on page 14 of the audit report. The $44.5 million is comprised of non-spendable fund balance of $33.5 million, restricted fund balance of $3.3 million, assigned fund balance of $17,000, and unassigned positive fund balance of $7.7 million. This is a $1.1 million increase in your unassigned fund balance, which is essentially the money that the township can use however they see fit, which is, that's positive to see that $1.1 million increase year over year. Total assets for governmental funds increased from $42.4 million to $51.3 million in 2021. Again, this increase partially due to the ARPA funds unspent at year end, as well as the due from the authority. And total liabilities increased from $4.2 million to $6.8 million at the end of 2021. Again, the due to the authority, as well as the unspent bond proceeds, which is an unearned revenue, helped to increase those liabilities year over year. That's the high-level synopsis of the audit report. And if you guys have any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions, Tim?
I wonder how we're doing on the pension shortfall. I understand there's there's a shortfall in our pension responsibility that we have to pay versus the balance that's available. And I'd kind of like to keep an eye on that year to year.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, I believe I know your OPEB liability went up. I think your pension, I don't have all the details in front of me right now. I know the pension liability might have stayed the same or gone down slightly. But the one thing you need to consider when you look at that balance, it's not a point in time. It's the liability that is due for all future years at December 31st, 2021. So although you're seeing whatever that balance is on your financial statements, it's not that the township would owe that tomorrow. That's a projection based on the actuarial evaluations for all future liabilities, based on the benefits of your retirees.
So if I could just,
I was just going to say, as a general statement, Rocky, I think our unfunded liability has actually gone down over the last several years because of the success of the market and investments. It is certainly, our unfunded liability is lower than it was when I started 8 years ago. But again, it's mainly due to investments. Now, this 2023 hasn't been the greatest year, which is unfortunate because what they do is they calculate your MMO based upon a snapshot in time on December 31st of odd years. And so because the market has been down, unfortunately that's gonna cost us, but in the last several cycles, it's actually, our unfunded liability has gone down because of the success of that.
And it did decrease slightly, if I understood, this in 2021.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a question of what direction are we going? Are we improving or not?
Yeah.
It seems like we've been improving until the stock market decided to take a slide.
yeah, just to put some metrics to it, which is on page 75 in the report, the 2021 police pension funded ratio was 83.2%. So you'll see that probably dip a little bit, as Commissioner Fleming noted, with the market performance this year. We'll know a little bit more about that when Conrad Siegel provides their next quarter metrics. And I'm struggling to find the OPEB, which is short for Optional Pension Enhancement Benefits. I believe that was right around 14 million.
It was.
14 million approximately, which, as Mr. Mira correctly pointed out, is the total liability from 12/31/21 forward for all participants, retirees that are in the plan, and retirees in the plan.
Okay, thank you.
And our just on the non-uniform side, the fund ratio is 92%. So, and we're helped there by a little better rate for the authority employees than the public works employees, because they were in a little different plan, and so their funding ratio was a little higher, so that props it up a little bit. But I think when I started, it was our non-uniform funded ratio was around 82%, and our uniform funded ratio was around 77%, if I recall correctly. It was in that neighborhood, so it's improved drastically in my time on the board. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, those, on page 39 of the report, I know Dave mentioned the fund ratios. They're shown side by side on page 39, both the non-uniform and police pension plan. Or if you want to go to the RSI at the back of the report, they're there as well.
Oh, yes. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept the report? So moved. Second. Moved and second. Commissioners Fleming and Knapp. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Next up is traffic study requests. Chief, please.
Three somewhat easy ones. First one is Fargreen Road for a hidden driveway sign for 4106 Fargreen Road. Again, it's not a regulatory sign. Our recommendation is to approve the installation.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Should we take these individually?
Well, candidly, there's no action that's needed.
Oh, okay.
At this time, you're welcome to
Oh,
make
the Board of
motion.
Commissioners received the report. I'm sorry, I thought I read approved. My apologies. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Received, Chief.
Thank you, sir. Rustic Drive, there was a request for study for one-way. Recommendation is no, and I concurred with that, so no action. And lastly, there was a traffic study for Shield Street for speed humps, and that recommendation was to not install them, and I concur with that recommendation. That's all I have.
All right.
My Commissioner, we will continue to do enforcement on that street. I know it's a
Thank you.
it's a area of complaint for you. We're well aware, and we'll keep the pressure up as we can.
And I've noticed coverage there previously, so thank you for that.
Just leaving up the well.
No, it's actually closer to Union Plaza.
You know how we can fix that?
Yeah, you almost got me now, but not quite.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
I can fix that for you. You don't need the chief.
All right, moving along. All right, this is resolutions, contract, subdivision, and land development plans. First up is resolution 22R25, which would authorize the president to execute a deed of dedication of right-of-way in the Susquehanna Township Authority for the Paxton Church Road Safety and Stabilization Project. Mr. Provolka.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the board has a resolution with your agenda. As the preamble indicates, it authorizes the acceptance and execution of the deed of dedication of right-of-way from the Susquehanna Township Authority to Susquehanna Township. Project is the Paxton Church Road Rehabilitation and Stabilization Project. We're approaching and getting ready to let that project out to bid. And the Manitoba Conservancy also has an easement on this same tract, and they have yet to approve it, but we'll keep you informed in that regard as those discussions commence. But otherwise, there are three claims that are tied to this particular transfer, so to speak, of land. The consideration that has been provided and accepted by the authority is a dollar consideration to convey the three parcels. I can answer any questions you have.
Okay. Yeah, is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move to adopt resolution 2022-R-25 to execute a deed of dedication right-of-way from the Susquehanna Township Authority for the Paxton Church Road Safety and Stabilization Project, which I just add is part of the stormwater fees that we've been collecting.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Polona. Any comments from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, similar, in the same vein, this is resolution 2022-R26, which would authorize the president to execute a deed of dedication of right-of-way from Ray R. and Christina Marie Haskins at 1440 Paxton Church Road for the Paxton Church Safety and Stabilization Project.
Thank you, Mr. President. So similarly, there's a resolution with your packet this evening authorizing the execution of the deed of dedication for the conveyance of right-of-way. A very small sliver, we're talking about 458 square feet of right-of-way necessary to effect the project, the Paxton Church Road Rehabilitation Project. There is $812 of consideration. Again, as Commissioner Hisro correctly pointed out, this is coming from the proceeds from the stormwater fee that's in place in the township. be paid by the Township Authority, but this is for the additional right-of-way needed in order to complete this project.
Move to adopt the resolution.
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Pine, seconded by Commissioner Hisro. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up is Resolution 2022 R27, which would authorize the submission of a grant, traffic signal technologies grant application with Lower Paxton Township and authorizing the township manager to sign all required application documents. Mr. Propolka?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Context?
So as again, the President just noted, this would, the resolution would authorize the signing of documents and submission of application documents for a joint project with Lower Paxton Township that would effectively install adaptive traffic signal controllers in the 12 signalized intersections that are in the Susquehanna Township and Lower Paxton Township jurisdictions on Lingelstown Road Route 39 corridor. This is a fairly recent development in the sense that the pool of money has only recently become available, but the technology provides real-time adjustments to be made to signal timing for both pedestrian and vehicular traffic that will adapt to current and existing conditions. So as peak volumes change, so will the signal timing, with the intention of moving pedestrians and vehicles more quickly and more safely through that corridor. So the grant application is due on September 30th. Lower Paxton Township is submitting on behalf, or intends to submit on behalf of both municipalities. We anticipate the total project cost based on the estimate that HRG provided today to be around $1.4 million. There is no local match. So this would be, if awarded, an entirely state-funded project. And we would try to minimize disruptions to the traffic certainly during the peak hours, but throughout the project, using methodologies like directional boring to install the conduit. Part of this project would be upgrading the vehicle detection technology that's at our signalized intersections to be a video technology, or in some cases a digital radar technology that would be a little bit more capable of identifying particularly pedestrians and bicyclists, but also vehicular traffic than the standard closed loops. These are the things you have to drive over in order to trigger the intersection. So all in all, it's my recommendation that you authorize the submission of this grant application. It's due next week, so there's a grant writer on staff in Lower Paxton Township who is working diligently to prepare the application documents, but we would submit this resolution along with our application packet, and I'll keep you apprised of any developments.
Move to adopt this resolution, Mr. President.
Second.
By Commissioner Napper, seconded by Commissioner Rothrock. Any questions or comments from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, we have a tabled item that we want to bring back onto the table and consider it. This is consideration of acceptance of a deed dedication of Cherry Orchard Drive.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we place this action back on the table.
Second.
Or take this action off the table.
Gotcha. Moved and seconded by Commissioner Pine. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion on the request?
Yes. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to deny the road dedication request at this time.
Yeah, I would like to second that, and I would like to add that my motion, and for clarification purposes, it would be without prejudice for entity to come at a later date, if there's changed circumstances, facts, for us to reconsider. But with that understanding, I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is termination of contract with Matthews Construction Services, Wood Park Phase 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this item If you recall, recently the Board of Commissioners authorized a contract with Matthews Construction to commence the Boyd Park Phase 2, or kind of Phase 1A upgrades. And the contractor has had difficulty securing the requisite bonding in order to effect the project. Because of the impact that that would potentially have on the scope, staff is recommending that the board terminate the contract this evening, and staff would immediately begin work on a revised scope through coordination with HRG and Mr. Greenlee. We would begin to value engineer the project and then present an amended scope to you for consideration to re-advertise at a future date.
Mr. President, I move to terminate the contract.
Moved by Commissioner Blover,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Locke. Any comments or questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Mr. Provoca, you'll reach out to the Union Deposit Post and the Boyd Foundation, and just keep abreast of developments.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next up is a presentation of the 2023 minimum municipal obligation, or MMO, police, non-uniform, and PMRS pension plans. Joe, there you are.
Okay, so provided in the agenda is a memo from Mr. Provolka describing the tentative minimum municipal obligation, or otherwise known as the MMO, for the uniform, the non-uniform, and the PMRS pension plans in place with the township currently. The MMOs are based on predicted pension liabilities as a function of the W-2 earnings from 2022. And at this time, the state aid value is unknown, so the final MMOs will not be available until the consideration of the 2023 operating budget. Staff is recommending that the Board of Commissioners receive the presentation of the 2022 minimum municipal obligation for the uniform, non-uniform, and PMRS plans.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the description as outlined by Joe Logan?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Fleming, seconded by Commissioner Beth. You got the tie this time. Any questions of Jill? Comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Logan. Consent agenda, there are 3 items tonight. Authorization to advertise the sale of the emergency backup generator on municipal bid. Authorization to sign pollution reduction plan task order 2022-1 and a financial security reduction request from Susquehanna Union Green phases 3A and 3B in the amount of $144,991. Commissioners are agreed to ask about any one of these items after there's a motion and a second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion by Commissioner Pine, seconded by Commissioner Fleming. Any comments or questions on these items? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner comments? Anybody wish to bloviate?
Briefly, Mr. President, a brief bloviation, as it were. Just going back to one of the items we considered on the agenda, we moved to accept some right-of-way to do stream bank restoration, and we have a number of projects and bids that the township puts out annually, and a lot of times along with those projects, now that project is $1.5 million, and we're sharing that financial responsibility with Lower Paxton Township and the City of Harrisburg through Capital Region Water and Lower Paxton Township. And I just wanted to make a comment briefly. I mean, we need to, as a township, given our population, I think be more intentional about, subcontractors who are awarded contracts as well. there are parameters in place that set aside portions of contracts for minority business enterprises and women business enterprises. And maybe WEB is the shorthand, but you know, I looked up the companies that that the entity who's going to do that work is subcontracting with, and you know, with all due respect, there's a gentleman who is a disabled veteran-owned business, and 2 women-owned businesses that they're going to contract with, but there are no people of color associated or involved in that process. And you know, when you talk about the 3 municipalities, the city of Harrisburg, 75% non-white residents, Susquehanna Township, 43% non-white residents, Lower Paxton Township, about 34% non-white residents. We have, this area is extraordinarily diverse, and yet our business and our money, you know, continues to go to, you know, to not flow to a diverse set of business owners. So again, I've made this point known on several occasions, but I just want to, it's something that's important to me because our, you know, our taxpayers deserve it, quite frankly. And so that's my piece, and I will leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll take them. Anybody else wish to comment tonight?
Yes, Mr. President.
Steelers game on.
I know, I'm a Steeler fan too, so this won't take long at all. I just want to, you know, I haven't been reporting about from the sewer authority, and Jill can back me up if I mess up, okay? The sewer authority received a presentation for their 2002 audit from Brown, Schultz, and Fritz, I think it was, and then the township manager and director of finance received approval to purchase a module for payment for the phone option to pay in for 800 number. And then next was we're working on a sewer diagram, and that will be in place with working with the planning construction committee. We're going to have a meeting and discuss the rules and regulations having to do with the maintenance of the building and the sewer service in your laterals. So these are some of the things that are coming up, and I see Nathan in the audience. He recently attended a pumping station training in Ohio as well. And that's my sewer report, sir. I haven't been doing it lately, so I wanted to follow up.
We certainly made up for lost time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Okay. Is there a motion? Frank's not here, so I don't know if we can.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, second. Moved and second.
Short
one. You figure out who's happening. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?